Well, just before we get into 2026, we have to do the festivities, the eating and drinking and jollying and all of that. And that's why we're looking at the poultry sector this morning. Yesterday, we talked about food and celebrating the reduction in the price of most food items. But we did note that our guest yesterday said it's not trickling down to the poultry sector, where we have a player in that sector this morning. Mr. Femi Adelayo is the Chief Executive Officer of Faco West Africa Limited. Mr. Adelayo, good morning. Compliments of the season.
Same to you, Ine. Good to have you.
Where are chickens? Rice and chicken very plenty. I hope that's what we're going to have this Christmas and New Year.
I hope so too. I quite think it will be like that this year. This year looks to be better than last year. The inflation rate is down 14.45%. The price of foodstuffs are lower. I mean, this is the first year in a lot of years that the price of rice hasn't hit the roof, you know. So those are good indicators. But for the poultry sector where we are in, the prices are still a bit here and
sticky.
there. Yeah, it's sticky. It's sticky. And the reasons are many. The main cause of the high prices was initially maize and soya, which were the raw materials. But there are still other costs attendant in this. You know, there's the cost of the day-old chicks. There is the cost of transportation, there's the cost of energy, there's the cost of additives, there's the cost of even things like wood shavings that, you know, you make sure that the beddings to keep the birds, you know, are fresh and healthy. So there are quite a number of things. Of course, there's the big M, the middlemen in those processes.
Exactly,
as well.
because I mean, what I hear is actually the middlemen who were blocking the benefits from trickling down.
Well, sometimes some people call it law of demand and supply. You know, it's always a challenge in our industry because the farmers don't get as much benefits from what they've planted, what they've grown, what they've the birds that they have. But then people come off, buy it, and then they take it to the market, and then they sell it at the very, very high prices. But regardless, I think this year the prices should be a bit lower than last year. My estimation is that it's going to be a better Christmas than last year. That's my belief. But unless and until some things change, you know, we should have it better than last year.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it too late for things to change? Christmas is next week, so let's just deal with it. It's what we have now that we'll have next week. Is there anything that could change between now and next week?
Oh, well, when I mean change, it would be in the sense that there will be more chickens in the market,
cheaper prices,
slightly cheaper prices,
slightly.
or even if it's not more, even if it's probably the same price as last year. Typically, what you have is every year the prices go up, right? So you might get the same price as last year or a bit lower. That is my expectation, you know. Chickens are sold, depending on where you go, between 15 and 25,000 naira in the market as at now. But then that depends on the weight and the size of the chicken. You know, so for us, we also, as you know, as equipment suppliers, as poultry producers, we make sure that the farmer gets it at the market, at the farm gate price, which is one thing our farmers have resorted to doing now, trying to get these things at farm gate price to the end consumer so that they get it cheaper. So we feel the effect of the policies, we feel the effect of the lower prices, and we have a good Christmas. So
you believe it's the policies that are driving down prices?
Yes, I think policies are part of it. Policies are part of it. The reality is, if you were buying maize at 600, 700, 800, and then you're buying it now about maybe 400, 500, you know, definitely you would see a reduction in those things. Most businesses don't implement those reductions as quickly as you would expect.
Except it was an increase.
If it's an increase, it goes really quickly because the effect is sudden. But then when there are reductions, there are other things that take it. There's still the import duties that people have to pay. With customs, for example, there is a 4% FOB that meant that some of the cost of importation went slightly up. So by the time you take those plus or minus into those equations, and there's still some importation in terms of additives and raw materials and things that you use to make the poultry feed. So some of those things, the plus and the minuses, energy is still a cost. So you would find that there might be a mild reduction, but unless and until you have the multiplicity of all these things coming down significantly, then we can find the prices lower, and then we can probably prevent smuggling or unhealthy chicken probably coming into Nigeria, because Nigerian chicken, grown chicken, is healthy. I mean, I can tell you that for free. It is safe, it is healthy, it is the best that we can eat for, and to develop our economy and grow our protein needs.
But is it more expensive now? Why do people prefer the imported?
Well, perhaps there's sometimes there is the belief that it is cheaper.
Is it cheaper?
It is the belief.
Okay, look, but you are in there, so you should.
I don't buy it.
Oh, but you just don't want to tell us.
I don't buy it. I only eat Nigerian chicken. I don't buy it because I'm in the poultry sector. Over 40 years, I'm creating value in equipment for poultry, for livestock, and we have our own farm. We raise birds, so we don't need to buy it. But we know from research that some of these things have preservatives that force them to keep them for a long period of time over the shipping line, and they're carcinogenic, which means that down the line you have the possibility of the populace coming down with diseases that we need a better healthcare sector to be able to take care of.
Which is more expensive.
Which is more expensive. So, I mean, why don't we just do the right thing?
Yeah, but maybe it's availability also. Have you looked at the supply? Because it does seem, if you walk into a frozen food shop, normally, what they offer to you first is the imported ones. Those ones that have been preserved and blocked for months.
So, I think it's a bit of the demand from the customer. If for example you went to the market and said, I want to buy Nigerian chicken, right? And then they said, we don't have. And you went to the next store, I want to buy Nigerian chicken. And you went, I want to buy Nigerian chicken. By the time they get there, they'll be like, people are asking for Nigerian chicken. Then they start to stock Nigerian chicken. And there are quite a lot of stores that have. In fact, some are even funny enough that the Nigerian chicken, because of perceptions, they might tell you, it's imported, right? Because of a belief in the perception, But ultimately, there is availability. There are challenges in the early sectors of the day-old chick sectors. I'll give you a very good example. When there is a glut in eggs, or where there is hatchery producers are not selling, it means that they may have to call their grandparent stocks or their parent stocks. That means that the number of birds that those ones can lay is reduced. That makes the price of the day-old chicks higher. Now, that makes the price to the farmer higher, and then it makes the end result of the poultry meat higher. So across that value chain, there is some level of need for intervention, assistance, and consistency to be able to have, the lines, whether it's the grandparent stocks, the hatcheries, down to the farmers, down to the processors, and then down to you and I.
Yeah, because I have to tell you, I've had to call at least one or two people to say, I want fresh turkey, and they told me they're out of stock.
If you want fresh turkey, I can get you fresh turkey.
Well, everybody cannot reach you, so we ask people around us.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say that, as you said, perhaps there's that need for intervention so that we can boost production of the local ones, and then that's if it's there and available and the price is right, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would prefer.
The debate or the thing with the turkey is mentally for us, because of Nigerians we have an interesting way of looking at things. Until recently, chicken was for Christmas and Easter.
Yes, that's how we grew up.
That's how we grew up.
Yeah.
But the younger generation, eat more chicken and it continues to increase, because even our per capita consumption of poultry is way lower than our West African counterparts, right? So we are a seasonal mindset people when it comes to poultry products, and that's really what happens with turkeys. Now, there are farms in Nigeria, an increasing number of farms that actually raise turkeys. You know, not just for the Christmas season, right? But even on a normal. But they need to grow. It's also a case of the demand. And if you look at it really, even the imported turkey you get, you always only find the wings. Whatever happens to the laps and other parts of the turkey, you know, that's a food for thought. But it means that there's an industry that is in that space. And there's some parts in this country as well, you know, that they don't particularly like frozen food, right? You know, maybe up north, there's more of a need for fresh type of produce than right down south here. So the country, as big, as beautiful as it is, has different demographics and eccentricities about how they approach poultry products and things like that. But there is availability. Most of the time is how do you get them to market? How do those at the market know that these things are available and healthy?
And healthy. So what do you see? So we're talking about the festivities now. After the festivities, you did mention the worrying fact that it does seem like we are more seasonal minded when it comes to the demand, you know, for this poultry product. So maybe after the season, after the festivities, markets close.
Well, it's changing. Very slowly, it's changing. We need to get to a point where there is more education and information as to how much poultry meat or eggs can serve as a protein source. We have a protein deficiency emergency in Nigeria. Look, if you look at it, by the time a child is 5, if that child doesn't get the right type of protein, the child's life is probably going to be retarded, you know. So we need to get our young people, our children, having eggs and meat. So there has to be a conversation from people like you and I, and many people that to talk about is importance of poultry. Now, if there are more people needing poultry, there will be more farmers growing those things, right? And then it becomes beyond seasonal, and then we can do more. And at FACO West Africa, we are always, you know, engaging, helping, teaching, equipping farms to make sure that we can mechanize, we can automate we need to feed our country.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I wanted to ask, just before you go, what do people look out for to know that it's a Nigerian? And this season, everybody's going to be looking for chicken and turkey. How do you know it's a Nigerian one?
So typically, if you... I'll give you a few pointers. You know, I'm not as good as that as my wife would be, but the few pointers would be that it's not as frozen. The ones that they import many of the times, because they put chemicals into it, it's oftentimes rock hard solid, right? Even the ones that we produce here, right? When you blast freeze them, when you freeze them, there is still a type of color. You will still see the color, somewhat of the color in that chicken. I mean, that's, for me, that's a basic one. Other parts of it is that you have companies that produce it, and there is the Nigerian stamp on it. You know, it's in a bag and it has a Nigerian flag on it. We should be proud of our flag. So you put it there, proudly made in Nigeria, organically grown chicken, and then everybody can eat. And we can make
proudly made. All right, Mr. Femi Adedayo, Chief Executive Officer of FACO West Africa Limited, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Ini. Have a Merry Christmas.
I wish you the same. All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, the sugar-sweetened beverages tax and amendment to it. That will be our conversation. We're going to take a lot of sugar this time around, so these are relevant conversations, but join us after the break for that.